Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about Star Wars, Disney Star Wars. We're going to talk about Andor. Remember Andor? Like nobody's talking about it.
No one's talking about it. It's so bad that Disney is going to put the first 2 episodes on like ABC and Hulu and Freeform, trying desperately to get people to watch the show or to subscribe to Disney Plus.
Yeah, we did talk about that before, but now it turns out that the showrunner says that they actually expected Star Wars fans just to consume the product. And it didn't work out that way. And I'm sorry, the problem with Disney Star Wars right now is that even if you do get an occasional good movie or good series, the garbage that's been put out over the last 10 years has definitely had an impact on consumers' view of the franchise. So, yeah, you can thank Boba Fett and Obi-Wan for the lackluster reception.
Yes. I mean, before the show even comes out, it's hard to call your people racist, your fans racist, if they don't like the character. You know, oh, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking about the actual racist. No, it was worded basically, if you didn't like her, you were racist because racists were attacking her.
Yeah, that was the whole marketing for Obi-Wan. It wasn't even about Ewan McGregor. It wasn't even about Darth Vader.
It wasn't even about Luke Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, because that's what it should have been about.
It was about Reva and little Princess Leia, who I still maintain should not have been the focus of the show.
No, she shouldn't have been the focus. Most people will agree with that.
You know, so let's talk about Andor. So I still haven't watched it. I haven't mustered enough give a shit to watch it, but I have had, I'll be honest, I have had several people tell me that this is actually the best of the Disney Plus shows.
This is indicative of our point. It might be the best one. People are so effing burnt out and tired of it, they don't even have enough, like you said, give a shit to even tune in to give it a chance.
Yep, so we're going to talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, almost 281,000 subs.
Woo!
Thank you for the support. We do talk about Disney Star Wars, not as much as we used to, because neither one of us care as much as we used to. You still care about original trilogy.
Yes.
I have moved on from Star Wars completely, but I do like to talk about Disney's...
You like to shit on Disney.
I like to talk about their miscalculations with this franchise, and again, how the hell you dropped the ball so badly when the roadmap was there, when George Lucas laid out the plan, you know, and they tossed that in the garbage. When we had the expanded universe, you know, Star Wars, even after it was kind of bruised from the prequels, you know, it rebounded with Clone Wars. There was never a complete lack of interest in Star Wars. And I don't think there's a complete lack of interest now, but it has become just another science fiction franchise. The toys are not selling like they used to. They're used to, even after the prequels, you still had half a row of Star Wars toys in most stores. And now you can't give them away.
Oh, yeah, you can't.
Literally, especially Rey. Can't give Rey away. She's clogging all the shelves. But yeah, so tell me what's going on here. This is actually the showrunner from Andor, right?
Yeah, I got this from Bounty in the Comics, and they got it from Variety, so I want to make sure I give credit. Apparently, Tony Gilroy made comments that basically they expected the audiences to be like massively, tuned in for this, and the critics to give them a hard time, but it kind of went in reverse.
Yeah.
If you go down here, it has a quote. They're talking about it here. He said, "I'm very pleased with what they did. The materials are great. I think I was surprised. I thought the show would go the other way, that we would have this gigantic, instantaneous audience that would just be everywhere, but that it would take forever for non-Star Wars people or critics or my cohort of friends to get involved in the show. The opposite happened. We ended up with all the critical praise, all this deep appreciation and understanding from really surprising number of sources, and we're chasing the audience."
Again, this reminds me of, there was a comic strip going around a couple of years ago, talking about The Last Jedi and how The Last Jedi set Solo up for failure.
It did.
And I mean, look, you can have opinions on Solo. I actually thought it wasn't that bad, but The Last Jedi broke the franchise so badly that even when you're giving people Han Solo and the Falcon and Lando and Chewie, they did not show up.
Well, they also made some really weird choices. With
some weird
choices and stuff, and then bring up another chick that's like better than everybody too.
Yeah, of course they did. But what I'm saying is, more people would have turned up for Solo, at least given it a chance, had The Last Jedi not fundamentally broke the franchise, destroyed Luke Skywalker. And then it's not even that, it's the drama around the franchise itself. Disney has to understand they're having Lucasfilm out there getting into pissing matches with YouTubers and bloggers and fans turns people off.
Well, you aren't hearing about the story group
No.
anymore. Like, what happened to the story group? Like, that's all you ever heard about was they were the mouthpiece, and now they're not saying anything. And, you know, it's just... They have no films coming out to 2025.
No.
Every time they have a film coming out, there's some kind of creative difference, and then it gets canceled or stopped. They keep announcing directors on these things that get walked back, and then they're announcing new people. Only things that they're working on mostly are the shows. Like we have Ahsoka, and then the Acolyte, and there's a bunch of different ones that are coming out that are shows. But that's what they seem to be putting their attention. But even the shows are showing dwindling returns.
Yeah.
So even a good show, arguably a good show like Andor, people are saying it's good, isn't getting anybody tuning in because they tuned in for Obi-Wan and look what happened. And they tuned in for Boba Fett. And Boba Fett, even the actors, like, this is not how Boba Fett would behave.
Yeah, I mean, it's so stupid. The Mandalorian actually did so much to bring old school Star Wars fans back. And it looked like, honestly, from my point of view, it looked like Lucasfilm was learning a lesson.
No.
They're like, just give people proper Star Wars, show respect to the franchise, show that you get it, don't disrespect the fans, and it'll be fine. And what happened instead? What happened instead was that show is now tainted because of the Gina Carano debacle for a lot of people. And then the two shows that followed it that should have been amazing. I mean, Boba Fett should have been better than The Mandalorian. It's Boba fucking Fett. It should have been amazing. And it was just some sad sack chasing people on scooters and just being sad. It was stupid.
So they had that, and then Obi-Wan would have been about Obi-Wan and Luke, because that's why he was there. And somehow it ended up, it was all the focus was on Reva and Leia. And Leia had no business being there and completely breaks lore that she was. It's just absolute. Oh, and then they had the fight Darth Vader game, which also broke lore and everything else. They don't have people respecting the material, in charge of the material.
Yeah, so then when you do get something that comes along like Andor, or even I'm going to be honest, I think season 3 of The Mandalorian is going to suffer too. I really do. Because people are burnt out on Baby Yoda already.
People are just burnt out. Yeah, you can't keep banking on Baby Yoda. People are just burnt out about Star Wars overall. It's like what happened with Marvel. They tried the Marvel Star Wars. People are getting burnt out on Marvel. They're not engaging in Star Wars like they wanted. The returns are obvious from the way that we're not seeing the people tuning into the shows. People are just like, we put videos about Star Wars, they don't get a lot of hits because people just don't give a shit anymore. And then you have the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel that Disney keeps, putting all this effort into. It's like a quarter of the occupancy.
Yeah.
And they're overcharging, and people, it's failing like in real time. Which we said, all this is stuff we pointed out was going to happen. We've been saying it was going to happen, and they just keep tripling down on stupidity.
So what's interesting is, he's going on to explain the series is chasing the audience because streaming is still not understood.
That bullshit. That is bullshit. That's an excuse. That's an excuse. Streaming's not understood. Yeah, he's talking about the receipts. We don't even know how people are going to get paid yet. Streaming's not understood. It's a load of shit.
Yeah, it is. And honestly, all these companies are bullshitting it. Amazon got busted bullshitting the numbers for Lord of the Rings. And really, where you can see the interest in the show is how many people are talking about. Are YouTubers making a bunch of videos about Andor?
Well, but I'm just saying, he's saying about because of streaming service and people is not understood. Well, then how come Mandalorian did fine? How come other shows that are on Disney Plus or on HBO Max or on Netflix have done gangbusters and done really, really well?
Because they could brag about the numbers. That's what's so interesting. So everybody was bragging about the numbers. And then all of a sudden, people were calling for let's standardize the numbers across the platform. So and you had like Para Analytics, and you've got now Nielsen's getting in. They're getting into it too, and they're like, yeah, because especially if you're going to sell advertising, you need to tell the advertisers or show the advertisers.
You need to show, not just tell.
This is what you're actually getting. And Netflix kind of started it by saying, well, here are our top 10 shows, and they wouldn't give their numbers away for the longest time because they want to be in control of the data. That is a very corporate thing. Like, well, we don't trust people to interpret the data that makes us look
well. So basically,
good,
they want to be in charge of data so they can lie to advertisers.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. They want to present data to the advertisers from a certain point of view to make sure the advertisers keep giving them money instead of having to explain to the advertisers why they're not getting returns.
And, the individual heads of studios like Kathleen Kennedy are probably like, well, we don't want our Star Wars shows numbers to be public unless we have something to crow about, because what's going to happen is
People are going to know we're full of shit.
Yeah, and they're going to be like, how much, and Bob Chapek especially is going to look at it and be like, how much did you spend for the show and what did we get in return?
Well, you're getting a dwindling audience is what you're getting in return. Because like you said before in many episodes of many videos that you said that, Star Wars films were like an event. And now it's just like, oh, there's another Star Wars show. And it gets to the place where you're just like, it's so easy if you miss one to just keep missing them.
Well, okay, and that is what happened. I might actually do an article on that sometime. Lifelong, diehard Star Wars fan. The Last Jedi broke me. And it wasn't just to jump on a bandwagon and be like, oh my God, now I'm going to be an anti. No, it literally, I remember sitting there.
It broke a lot of people.
I sat there in the theater watching this thing. And I even turned to you a couple times, like when Leia's flying through the air and all that shit. I'm like, I had my hands up in the air like, what the hell are we watching? What the hell are we watching?
They lost me as soon as they did the Your Mom joke.
And it was like, oh my God. And we didn't go see The Rise of Skywalker. That was the first time that either one of us did not go to the theater to see a new Star Wars movie. We even went, I camped out for the special editions. I think you did.
Yep.
Before we were married, we went to go see, when we were together, we went to go see the prequels. We even went opening night to Attack of the Clones, and you had a tooth extraction.
That day.
That day, and you were in agony, and we still went to Attack of the Clones midnight show. Right?
Yep.
That, I mean, so we've never, and it was the same with The Force Awakens, and it was the same with The Last Jedi, and then it just broke us. We went opening weekend solo. We didn't go the first night, but we went.
It was like the second or third.
It was like Saturday or something. Yeah, we went to it, and we did not go The Rise of Skywalker. I still haven't seen it.
I think a lot of people are in the same position, or they've seen it and they're just like, I'm out. And that's what Disney is a problem. They have a problem with Star Wars. I mean, you bought the product. You lied to George Lucas about how you were going to follow his story ideas. Maybe you should have done that. You just perpetually keep making bad decisions, which drives it further and further into the ground. And then you triple down by insulting the fans about your bad decisions, knowing how the reaction is going to be. Well, if you know it's a bad idea, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
I don't know what else to tell you. It's like you guys are trying to suck. But now you have, showrunner like, I thought we'd just have an audience show up, and now we can't get an audience. That's a problem. Yeah, it is.
5 or 6 years ago, the audience would have shown up. If you told people, and that's kind of, you said, hey, we're going to have Star Wars on TV, people would be like, holy shit.
10 years ago, you had a Star Wars hotel. It'd be booked for years. If it was original trilogy.
Yeah.
And it was more immersive. They would pay the price, too.
Well, it's paying the price. Basically, everything that Disney's putting out right now, it doesn't matter how good it is. If it's Star Wars, it's immediately met with skepticism. The Mandalorian won people over because it had a lot to prove and it did it well.
Yoda.
It had Baby Yoda. And people were like, fine, it's Jon Favreau, it's Dave Filoni. We will give this one another chance. And they did. Then they fucked it up with Gina Carano. That was handled badly.
Yeah, the Rangers of the Republic would have been amazing.
That would have been awesome. That would have been like Xena in space, And they fucked that whole thing up badly. That split the fandom even more than it already was split.
And they had all these strong female characters. Like we joked at the end of the what was it? Was season 2 or season 1? Season 2. When all the women were at the bridge or whatever, and you didn't even think about the fact that it was all women.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my God.
Slow-mo it.
Yeah. It was like, oh my God, it's all women. You just think about it later, and it was like, that was amazing. And they had all these people characters that you just didn't care that they were women or they were men. They were just good characters, and they had a win. I mean, when you can make me forget that, that's a win, because that's all they want to push. But real quick, back to you saying about, him thinking the audience is going to be there. I wanted to say, did you try insulting them and calling them racist names?
Yeah, because that always works.
Because that works. I mean, that's your usual go-to. If you tried that.
Yeah, try that. Try calling them bigots. Point out all the people of color on the show, because I'm sure the actors and the actresses really love to have targets put on their foreheads.
Oh, and then make sure that if you have fans that aren't straight, white, and male, you just make sure you step over them and ignore them and just keep calling them names too, because it blows your narrative. Have you tried turning it off and back on again? I don't know what to tell you. It's like you completely effed up. I don't know. I do not think it can be recovered at this point.
I think
it's toast.
I think this is it. I think the last chance Disney got a saving throw with The Mandalorian, and they blew it. Because not only the Gina Carano situation, fine, but Obi-Wan and Boba Fett, 2 of the most popular characters in Star Wars history, and both of those shows were dog shit. Inexcusable. Like, if this were a show about, like, Yub Yub the Ewok or something, like your expectations aren't going to be that high, right? But it's fucking Obi-Wan rematch with Darth Vader should have been pretty damn
there's
epic.
commas in there. It's not Yub Nub the Ewok fucking Obi-Wan. There's commas.
I'm sure, no, not on DeviantArt. Not on DeviantArt. And if it doesn't exist, we can use AI art to create that. Oh my God. We could use AI art.
No, I don't want to see it. Don't ruin it.
What are the prompts? Yub Nub the Ewok, fucking Obi-Wan.
Well, apparently Jawas are furry all over too, so,
Yeah, that was like, because I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. They got the Naboo Starfighter. I like the prequels, and I like the Naboo Starfighter. It was one of my favorite toys. Our ferret used to drag it around.
He did.
He did.
My Ty the ferret.
Oh, poor Ty. But he loved that thing. It had ferret teeth in it, and he used to drag my...
He had teeth marks all over. He loved it.
He loved it. He used to drag the Starfighter around because the R2 would make noise. But it was cool to see that. Like, they're trying to embrace the prequels, too, and tie everything together, and then it just...
They're furry.
They're furry. Did I mention I had sex with a Jawa? Did I mention that Jawa was, like, down there in my lady bits? I'm like, no, you really don't need that in Star Wars. Thank you very much. But yeah, so they're trying to Marvel it, and it's not working. And I don't know. I think Star Wars is toast. I mean,
we've been saying that they keep we heard about the Star Cruiser, like bad idea.
Yeah.
And we heard about like when they do these different shows, and then they, Andor I was looking forward to, but then when they started talking about how the bents they were going to take it on, I was like, but that's boring. No one's going to watch that. And I was clearly right because no one's watching it.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's not even making it in the top 10 Nielsen's. Nobody's talking about it. I mean, I've said before, I keep forgetting it exists. And frankly, Disney spent all of their time dunking on the chuds for She-Hulk, and that's all you heard about for weeks. She-Hulk, 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 dunking on the chuds. And they honestly thought people were just going to show up for Andor and be like, most people are like, who's Andor? Oh, that guy from Rogue One. Remember that guy? No, I watched Rogue One like a while ago, and I don't really. He's that guy who was with that other guy who had the robot. Yeah, is a robot in it? I don't know. It's expensive.
Yeah, no.
He's not in it.
I don't think so.
K2's not in it. That's not worth
so.
watching.
Maybe second season.
Second season.
Oh no, they already agreed on the second season.
Okay.
And they made these 12 episodes long, so it's one of the longer shows.
Wow. Well, yeah, so...
It also doesn't help that you just you're going to be jacking the prices up of Disney Plus. So if you want to pay the same rate, you have to get commercials and stuff too. You're not doing yourself any favors. There's a lot of bad decisions here.
There's so many bad decisions with Star Wars. Star Wars was bungled badly, and we're seeing Marvel go down the same path. Like, stop. Just fucking stop and breathe. And I think that's part of the problem. The biggest part of the problem right now is... Disney spent this money on this stuff, and they think these franchises that were originally created as labors of love by the people that created the characters and all that stuff. George Lucas did Star Wars because that's the story he wanted to tell, right? And he held off on making more movies until he got to a point where he wanted to tell another story and had the technology to do it. Disney's just like, well, we spent $4 billion. We got to make it back like ASAP. So we're going to crank out a bunch of movies and crank out a bunch of shows and crank out a theme park. And they're treating it like they just bought some...
This is a product.
It's not a
product.
It's a product.
And that's all it is to them. And the thing is, they're just killing it. And it's their fault.
Star Wars could last for generations to come. The original trilogy will always be timeless. The prequels, they're not, I don't think they're as bad as people make them out to be, but But the original trilogy will stand the test of time, and all this Disney stuff just feels like a bunch of really bad fan fiction, direct-to-video sequels. It feels like a direct-to-video sequel.
If you have a kid telling a story, and you're sitting there watching, and the story doesn't end, and like, and then
somehow Palpatine returned. And then somehow raised all the Jedi. And then
it just keeps going and going and going, and that's what it reminds me of. And then all you're just thinking in your head is just shut up, kid. I love you, but shut up. It's like that.
It's like bedtime stories. Anyway, are we gonna wrap this up? Yeah, I don't know what else to say, guys. I'll check it out maybe someday, but what will happen is something better will come along and I'll forget all about it, just like everything else that Disney's been putting out lately. So, gonna wrap it up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.
Bye.